Hey drivers, welcome back to another one. Today we're finally dialing in something I've been chasing for a long time, making Forza Horizon 6 actually feel good on a wheel. In this case, for drifting. Yes, I know you need lessons. I'm working really hard to see how to format my drift lessons for later. That aside, getting Forza Horizon 6 to feel right on a wheel is way harder than I expected. In this case, for drifting. The wheel of focus this time around is the Moza R3. If you have this one, you're gonna like this video. It might also work well for the Moza R5. I spent a ton of time going back and forth changing one setting at a time with my Moza wheel, trying to get the best possible feel. Trying to get smooth transitions, natural countersteer, better weight transfer, and enough steering return to actually link drifts mostly with throttle. But first, let me explain how to get force feedback working the right way. If you're using the Moza ESX wheel, not the regular ES model, all you need to do is hold down S1 and S2 at the same time, which switches the wheelbase into Xbox mode. Once you do that, it pretty much bypasses Moza Pit House and lets Horizon handle most of the wheel behavior directly. Or at least that's how I believe it works. Now if you're using the regular ES wheel that doesn't have the Xbox logo, you can try going to Moza Pit House, clicking Settings, then Experimental Functions, and downloading the experimental firmware. That should create a Forza Horizon config file inside Pit House. Now obviously do this at your own risk since it's experimental firmware. But with that out of the way, let's finally talk about the settings themselves. Because once I started understanding what each setting actually does, tuning the wheel started making way more sense. So first up is vibration scale. I ended up settling around 0.3. This controls the smaller vibration effects coming through the wheel. Things like road texture, tire scrub, surface vibration, and curves. At first you might think that more vibration equals more realism, but honestly, too much vibration can actually hide the important information. For drifting, I don't want the wheel buzzing constantly. I want to feel weight transfer, front tire grip, and when the car is about to regain traction during transitions. So keeping this lower gave me a cleaner signal overall. Next is the force feedback scale. I kept this at 1.0. This is basically the overall strength of the wheel. Too low and the wheel feels dead, too high and everything starts clipping together. If you do want to adjust this, just make very small incremental adjustments, but I wouldn't stray too far away from the default setting. With the force feedback scale, this is where a lot of people go wrong. A super heavy wheel does not automatically mean realistic. In fact, for drifting especially, too much force can actually slow transitions and make catching slides harder. I found 1.0 worked best because it gave enough steering weight without completely overpowering the R3. Now let's talk about center spring scale. I ended up around 0.1. This adds an artificial force that pulls the wheel back towards center. A tiny amount can help stabilize Forza Horizon 6 a little because Horizon isn't a full hardcore sim, but too much center spring completely ruins drifting. The wheel starts feeling robotic, transitions stop flowing naturally, and the wheel fights countersteer instead of helping it. At 0.1, it gave just enough stability without ruining the natural movement of the wheel. Now this is a huge one, wheel damper scale. I also settled around 0.1 here. This setting slows down steering movement. Think of it like resistance to wheel speed. Higher dampening makes the wheel calmer and smoother, but too much dampening absolutely kills drifting. This was one of the biggest problems I ran into while tuning. Too much dampening slows self-countersteer, hurts transitions, makes linking drifts harder, and gives the wheel that sticky, delayed feeling. Keeping this low made transitions feel way more natural. Now this is probably the most important drift setting in Horizon, mechanical trail scale. I ended up settling at 1.5. This is basically your self-aligning torque generator. In simple terms, this is what makes the wheel want to countersteer itself. Higher mechanical trail gives stronger steering return, faster transitions, more steering wheel buildup, and easier throttle-only linking. This was honestly the secret sauce for making Horizon finally feel decent on a wheel. But there is a balance. Too much trail and the wheel becomes overly aggressive and wants to over-rotate. Too little and steering feels dead and lazy. For me, 1.5 ended up being the sweet spot. Next is force feedback minimum force. I kept this at 0.5. This controls the minimum amount of steering force always being applied to the wheel. Higher values keep the wheel feeling active and prevent dead feeling steering. But too much minimum force makes the wheel constantly feel loaded and heavy. But for drifting, that can make transitions feel sticky and unnatural. 0.5 ended up being a good balance where the wheel still felt alive without becoming overly heavy. Now let's talk about force feedback load sensitivity. I settled around 1.0 for this one. This changes how aggressively steering force builds as the tire loads up. Higher sensitivity makes weight transfer feel stronger and sharper, but too high can make transitions snappy and unpredictable. Lower sensitivity smooths everything out and makes the steering more progressive. This setting becomes really important while tuning transitions in throttle-only drift making. The reason is because this changes how the wheel reacts when the front tires suddenly regain grip during transitions. 1.0 gave me the smoothest balance overall. The road feel scale is a little different. I ended up at about 1.1. This setting controls how much roll texture and tire scrub detail comes through the wheel. Higher values give more texture and grip, but too much can make the wheel noisy and messy. I like enough road feel to understand what the front tires are doing, without drowning out the actual chassis movement and weight transfer. 1.1 felt like a nice middle ground for that. Off-road feel scale is basically extra vibration and texture for dirt, gravel, grass, and rough terrain. If you're doing that, you're probably not drifting. I suppose you can drift on dirt, but you know what I mean. I kept this around 0.4. For pavement drifting, this usually doesn't matter too much. I keep it lower so the wheel stays cleaner and smoother overall. And finally, steering sensitivity. I kept this at 0.5. This changes how aggressively steering inputs are interpreted. Higher sensitivity makes steering react faster and sharper. Lower sensitivity smooths steering and makes the car calmer. But honestly, for drifting on a wheel, I found wheel rotation and mechanical trail affected the feel way more than steering sensitivity. But honestly, for drifting on a wheel, I found wheel rotation and mechanical trail affected the wheel way more than steering sensitivity. Now after all this testing, this is the setup, and I ended up liking it the most on the Moza R3. And with these settings, plus the changes they've made in Forza Horizon 6, it has made this the best Forza Horizon experience I've ever had on a wheel. Now I know my settings may not be entirely perfect, but finally it gives me a smooth enough feel that I'm able to link drifts naturally, feel weight transfer, and actually let the wheel self-countersteer instead of fighting me the whole time. I also found that tuning the actual car matters just as much as wheel settings. Things like caster, toe, camber, and differential tuning completely changed how the wheel behaves. I can make another video on that later. At the end of the day, the biggest lesson here is this: good wheel settings are not about making the wheel heavy. They're about balance. Enough force to feel the car, enough smoothness for transitions, enough detail to feel grip changes, but enough freedom for the wheel to actually rotate naturally. That's the difference between a wheel setup that feels robotic and one that actually starts feeling connected to the car. A couple more things. As I mentioned earlier, I'm working on a video for how to drift. It will take some time to format it for the best possible results. Meanwhile, check out my video, How to Drive Manual. You will need this skill first to do everything. And before we end the video, if you guys want to improve not just your wheel settings, but your actual driving fundamentals, check out my ebook, The Standard of Driving. It's a sim racing guide focused on control, consistency, smoothness, weight transfer, vision, braking, and understanding how cars actually behave. Basically the same mindset that helped me tune this wheel setup in the first place. Link is in the description below. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoy these settings. Please let me know what you changed or what you liked about it or what you didn't like in the comments below. And we'll talk to you soon. Drive safe and save it for the track.